Welcome to Dr. Lottie's Science with Soul. I'm Dr. Lottie and the host of this podcast. Today, I'm really excited to introduce Caroline Sutherland. And Caroline Sutherland is a medical intuitive. She's an author, radio host, teacher, and innovative leader in the fields of nutrition and energy medicine. She's also the popular Hay House author of the Body Knows book series. And Caroline has a vast clinical background as an allergy testing technician in environmental medicine, where her intuitive gift developed. And in the early 1980s, while working as a physician assistant, she began to receive intuitive impressions about the patient, an experience which groomed her to become one of the most sought-after medical intuitives today. Caroline was raised in a medical family, and both her father and grandfather were medical doctors. And as a child, that blueprint of her family lineage created the important seeds for her future career as a medical intuitive. And for over 40 years, she has lectured internationally on the subjects of health education and medical intuition. And her intuitive impressions have positively affected the lives of thousands of people. So welcome, Caroline. It's so exciting to have you as a guest today.
Oh, Dr. Lottie, it's great to be here with you too. I really appreciate it.
So tell me, let's start first with, how did you get into working as a medical intuitive, and what is that medical intuition? You mentioned that you worked as a physician assistant.
Medical intuition is the ability to see beyond the normal levels of perception into subtle levels that lie below the surface. Mm-hmm. And I believe everybody has the ability to learn how to do this. And that's my books, the Body Knows book series, talk about learning how to do this. A very simple way is to think about muscle testing or kinesiology, that all chiropractors and many nutritionists know how to use kinesiology or muscle testing. So personally, that's a really good way in, an entry point to get into understanding the subtle levels of the body and understanding what would be useful, what might not be useful. And people can learn how to do that themselves, or even to learn how to use a pendulum and get a yes/no response, or a benefit or a non-benefit. So something simple, and then of course it will expand into other things and other levels. And once we start asking questions of the universe, we will receive answers. And each person has their own particular link, their own particular way of accessing this. It's not universal, it's not a blanket sort of, goal or prescription for everybody. Everybody has their own individual way of doing this and tapping in to the secrets or the information of the universe, and it's there for everybody. And not to be afraid of it, to welcome it and say, this is something I can explore.
I love it. I love the title of your book, the book series, the Body Knows book series, because like you're saying, the body knows, right? And so I'm training KST, which is a corn specific technique, and it's ways to correct the body by doing muscle testing. And you ask the body, and because the body knows. I just love that, the title of the book series. So when you work with people, how do you tap into, let's say you're having a client, they come in and you're going to tap into that. Do you see images? Do you hear things? Do you just tune in and feel the things in our body, or how does it work?
I feel it. I receive impressions, but they come to me very quickly. I receive an impression about a person, and it's usually very, very physically based. A lot of people, a lot of intuitives and practitioners might see something, and it would be maybe energy or colors or lights, or they would just feel something. But mine is very physically based because of all my work in environmental medicine for so many years. And so I just dive right into the physical, and I can just feel it. They'll send me, say, a list of some of the supplements they're taking and some of the things that they're having issues with, and I can just tap into it. For example, this morning, I had a wonderful client who came to me as a result of a recent interview, and she was on all the right things, but she was taking one of her supplements. It was hormonally related. She was taking it at the wrong time of the day. And I knew therein lies the problem. So sometimes it's just a matter of tweaking, and then it's feeling it. If you make a little tweak this way or that way, how will this go for the person? And then you get into this place where it feels right. If we make this adjustment, it feels right. And then you can tell that it's almost like you're combing through the energy of the person, and you can just feel when something isn't fitting. You make that adjustment, and then how does it feel? Feels good. Are we done here? Yep, we're done here. And so for me, it's very specific, and it's happened this way ever since I started doing kinesiology and allergy testing for medical doctors. This has just come because of that background. Other people would have another background, or they might not have any background. And that's the part that's important, is these impressions are not just random. They need to fit in and be practical so that the person can use the information, and that makes the difference. So that's what I like to do. It's very practical and always very physically based.
I love it. So you just tune in and you get that feeling of, I know exactly what you're talking about, because when I work as a medium, and it is that feeling, it's right. Right?
Yes, or something's off. Something's off here. Okay, what do we have to do? Well, if we make this adjustment and that adjustment, that's going to correct.
And I know you published your book through the Hay House. So
yes.
Did you get to meet Louise Hay?
Yes, Louise Hay came to me quite serendipitously in 1999, and she had read an article about me. And there she was the next day at the hotel in my suite. She was my first client of the day. And I didn't know anything about the fact that she was coming. And thank goodness I didn't know, because I wouldn't want to second guess her ahead of time. I would have been sort of getting quite rattled about that. Anyway, there she was. She was sitting right in front of me. And I just went boom, 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 boom. We need to do this, this, and this. It made a huge difference for her. Almost immediately, within a couple of weeks, she felt a lot better. And she put me on the map, so to speak, as a Hay House author, and I was on the circuit with her for many years, and it was a lot of fun. She was a wonderful, wonderful person, and still features very strongly in my life, Louise.
Wow. Oh, that's wonderful. How old would she have been today? Like late 90s or something, if she was still alive?
She was very close to 90, and I'm going to say she died in 2017. But I could be a little off on that. But I met her when she was 73 years of age. And some of the things that we did for her made such a difference. It was just huge. It was dramatic. And they were simple things that, and I'm sorry to say that people who were helping her had missed certain very, very practical and important things. They were missed. And she was not thriving in those days. And we got her turned around, and she was doing beautifully after that.
I love it. And there's so many times, I'm sure you get these clients too that sort of fall through the cracks of the medical system. They they have problems or issues that the Western medicine cannot easily resolve.
Right.
And that's where people like you come in and change people's lives.
But the thing is, I have the greatest respect for traditional Western medical attention, because both my father and grandfathers were doctors. And so I am not one for, no, don't use the traditional medical system. Use that. What are they saying? What have you got? What can you work with? And then how can we pull some pieces in to be able to assist with this? It's not to throw it out. It's to say, this is interesting. How can we dovetail these disciplines together?
Yeah, it's interesting because we both have, our fathers were physicians.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting though in itself? And here we are working the medicine on the spiritual path.
Yes. Right? But and I'm sure you know this too, Dr. Lottie, is when the body corrects on the physical level, then the spiritual lines up. That opens the doorway for the spiritual. But if that physical isn't corrected, you don't have the same openness to things coming together on the spiritual level, the inner guidance, being able to see beyond the subtle levels of perception. And so that physical piece is such a big piece that a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll do my meditation, love and light, send some prayers and incantations, and then I'm corrected. Well, no, because it's body, mind, and spirit. It isn't just spirit. There's that body piece that I love to do. I love the body piece.
Absolutely. I'm right with you there. There's three components to health. And it's very true that the physical health will impede your spiritual connection.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that.
Precisely.
And so what do you think are the three keys to staying young and vibrant?
Well, this is why it's a great connection with you, because you're like me and you realize the importance of hormone balancing for men and women. And I would say the youth and the vibrancy is very linked in to natural hormone balancing, which has to be done correctly, which is why I'm very pleased to connect with you, because you can take on some of my people who don't have good help for hormone balancing. But I would say as we progress in age, you easily 55, late 50s, 60s, it's definitely worth pursuing natural hormone balancing. So for anti-aging or staying young, hormone balancing on the physical level, diet and supplements, and then of course staying engaged. What gets us excited? What is, getting us out of bed in the morning and keeping us engaged? I think it's so important. And so many people wonder, well, what's really my purpose and why am I here? Just do things you love. It doesn't matter if it's gardening or it doesn't matter what it is. Just do what you love. The right people will come into your life to help you with it, or round out your coterie of friends and people that you want to spend time with. People will come if you're just doing what you love. And people miss that. They think, well, I really should be searching here and searching there. And I don't think it's necessarily a matter of searching. It's a question of just continuing to do what gives you joy and happiness. Mine just came to me because I was ill. I had the beginnings of multiple sclerosis, and I was sent by my own doctor to see an alternative medical doctor. And that's where I got involved in environmental medicine. It turned out the foods that I was eating were making me tired. I had hormone imbalances. And something very common, which is the yeast syndrome, all of that was corrected. And within months, I was just feeling like a new person. I thought, wow, there's something to this. So I started pursuing it. And sure enough, it's been a wonderful, wonderful career.
And why do you think that simple corrections are often overlooked?
Well, because people are under the grapple hook of addictions. People are addicted, even to simple things like their coffee and their sugar and their bread and their pastries. They're addicted to that. Why are they addicted? Because they're in pain and they believe those things are going to alleviate their pain. And those addictions are so strong that, voice of whatever you want to call it, the negative voice, pulls the person over to the alcohol and the sugar and the no-nos and the negative thinking. And yet there's this whole well of joy that awaits them as long as they're willing to give up those things that they're addicted to and the negative thinking. And so there's lots that can be done for that. Changing the mind with audio tapes and CDs and subliminals. I'm a big believer in subliminals. And I play them every single day, even though I would check that box for feeling, having a good attitude. There's just a ton that people do, and it's fun. And once you do these pieces, there's always a gift that comes in. Universe knows, universe is checking. Is she or he working the program? You'll be rewarded. There's always a gift that comes when you take these steps to cast aside and give up these things that we know are not working for us. And that can be relationships too. There's people in relationships that those relationships are not working. But it's scary to give them up. No, it's a good thing because the doors are going to open. And the minute that door, we let go of that person or that addictive behavior, the door is going to go open up and something's going to come in. Good things going to come in.
Oh, I love it. You close one door and open another.
Yes.
Right. And that's just how life is. It's that revolving door. But we have to close that. We have to close one door in order for the next one to open, which is so true.
Yes, we do. Very, very true. Exactly. And not to be frightened, to be embracing it, saying, oh, well, I wonder what this is going to lead to.
Yeah, it's just, living life to its fullest potential and just throw yourself out there.
Yes, and always believe that the universe is supportive of a change that you feel inside that needs to happen. You feel a change needs to happen. You're frightened of it, but you feel it needs to be done. So you start with your steps. Universe is always going to support you and show you, give you the feedback that you're on the right track.
Yep, it's just a matter of tuning in, and we can all do it.
Yes,
right?
we can.
We are all intuitive creatures. So what is your impression of energy medicine?
I love energy medicine, but as I've already mentioned, it's the gift that keeps giving to you once you've done that physical piece or continue to do the physical piece. But so many people place a huge amount of their time and focus on energy medicine and feeling things with your hands and feeling things with auras and chakras and whatnot, which is lovely. But I also want them to do the physical piece as well, thinking about these addictive processes that take them away from being that purveyor of light and energy that comes with the energy medicine once that physical piece is clean and clear, I would say.
And what is the death process and how can it be arrested?
The death process. That's a very, very big thing. But that is huge. And it's a piece that once people understand it and they start to correct it, then that engages the life process. So the death process is the decay and the breakdown within that physical body. And that physical body then becomes a host to fungi, bacteria, yeast, spores, you name it, that feed off the body and take the energy away. So you want to be doing something consistently to arrest the death process. So that would be taking care of fungus, candida, and all these yeast and all these other organisms that are part of the death process, the breakdown, death, and decay of that physical body. And how is that done? Well, the biggest culprit, as you know, is sugar. And that's going to be sugar and alcohol, anything that is sugary, even fruit. People think, oh my gosh, I have 10 pieces of fruit a day. Be one piece of fruit a day. Not a whole lot of fruit because that, again, is sugar. And that's what makes worse all these decay processes, feeds those decay processes. I just got a little link that my internet is unstable. My internet is a fabulous connection.
Your voice is coming through, so the picture is freezing a little bit, but I'll let you know if you disappear on me.
Okay. Anyway, so how do you arrest the death process? Eliminate the sugar, get anything that is sugar well out of the equation. Does it mean you can have an occasional sweet thing? Yes. And then be taking something, some type of a herb that will clean up this yeast and fungus. Then what happens? The energy comes flying back into the body. The person has energy, they have vitality, and then they're on top of this death process. This is the breakdown, decay of the body. And I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of practitioners, and I know that's a focus for you, are not doing anything with. And that's a sad thing because it's a simple piece, but it needs to be done on a consistent basis over and over and over again, not just one course of something that will help to control yeast and fungus. That would be an ongoing thing that people do on a daily basis every single day.
Yeah, and there's so many different reasons why people end up with the mold and the fungus. Like if they had
Yes.
mold exposure, for example, they might have the whole mycotoxin mold spores in the body, and there you get
Yes.
the candida and the SIBO and everything else gets off. And it was just a mold exposure in that moldy apartment while they were in college, right? And it stays
Yes.
in the body all these years, and then they try so hard to get well, and like you said, they end up with all these and then the mold issues and the candida, and then their sugar is just going to feed it all.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
and so what you're saying is correct. Like you get rid of the alcohol, which is just sugar, right? And the sugar
Yes,
stop feeding those pathways. So but
that's
it's
right.
amazing, our Western medical system is so great. If you have a heart attack, car accident, oh, I'm going to the ER, right? I'm not going to drink carrot juice. I'm going
Yeah,
to go to
that's
the
right.
ER and get the help I need. But when
Yeah.
it comes to the kind of the long-term chronic things, people not feeling well, and it could be something simple, just like that. And you're tuning into their body and
Yeah,
you say,
exactly.
oh, I feel like you have all this, candida overgrowth. And then they get well. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it?
Well, I had the beginnings of multiple sclerosis, and all it was this yeast in a chronic state, and it was
Mm-hmm.
because of the use of antibiotics. My dad was a doctor, and
Mm-hmm.
I had chronic, respiratory infections as a child, and I just had course after course of antibiotics, and it just threw off my entire system. And this yeast was rampant. It had found its way into my brain,
Mm-hmm.
which, as you know, it can. And I was not well. I was having these multiple sclerosis like
Lesions on the brain. Yeah, they'll look,
yes, and
yeah,
I
because
couldn't think clearly,
mm-hmm.
and boy, do a good cleanup. And I at that point was using a medical prescription, a prescription to be able to control the yeast.
Mm-hmm.
But it made a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Nystatin, which of course is only available by prescription, but there's lots of supplements that you can use. I mean, everything from
Mm-hmm.
garlic to Powdarco to, you know, um,
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many
grapefruit
things you can
seed.
use exactly to kill it off.
Yeah.
And it depends
Oh, I know.
for that person what's best for them. That's always.
Exactly. It's what's going to work for them.
Mhm.
Oh, yes. So
So,
it can be life-changing for people, and it's simple. It's
mhm,
not difficult.
yeah. So how can people start to tap into their own body's intuition?
Yes, well, I love muscle testing. I love people to learn how to use a pendulum. And if people use a pendulum, the question is this substance beneficial for my body? Not can I eat this or not can I
Mhm,
take this supplements? What's the benefit? So
mhm,
is it beneficial? And if you learn how to use a pendulum and get familiar with it, then you get to the point where you just know, you just tune in, yes or no, this is beneficial, this is not beneficial. And that's a great way in for people. And they learn in time how to trust it so that they
mhm,
can trust their responses. One of the things I would say about pendulum testing or muscle testing is don't do it late at night,
mhm.
and don't ask crazy questions like, am I going to marry the man next door? Now that we don't know, but you can test for benefit
Mhm,
about, a peanut butter sandwich or
mhm,
a hard-boiled egg, but don't ask crazy questions that for which we don't have a present answer. It has to be in the present. And
mhm,
then people will just get really good at it, and then you just know. And when you start to do this work, you could
mhm,
just feel it in your body that it's a benefit or it's not beneficial.
mhm. Absolutely. And I love how you said that it has to be in the present moment, because,
Yes.
all we have is the present moment. And it's the same when I work as a medium. You can't foretell, we're not fortune tellers. We can't tell what's going to happen in the future. We have all these different options, all these different paths that we can take, right? All these different paths. And
Right.
we are standing right here. Well, you got 5 options right here. But I don't know if I eat the peanut butter sandwich, am I going to have anaphylactic shock or not? I don't know. I'll find out if I do. But, there's so many options that can happen. And so marrying the next door neighbor, you can't, I love that example. You can't
But
really ask that. It
I
has to
think
be
the
something in the
greatest thing
present.
with this is to be in the moment and to be patient, because the universe
Mhm.
is going to unfold for us. You know, whatever it is, whatever our goals, our desires, it's going to unfold, but to be willing to be in the present moment and to be patient, I think is something that is a learning experience.
I love the pendulum too. It's such an easy tool to use. You know, learning how to use a pendulum is a great tool. Sometimes I teach my patients to get used to, you know, ask the vegetable when you're in the store, you know, put your hand above it and I don't know, how does it feel? You know, does it feel hot? Is that good then? Or does it feel cold? Maybe that's a no. So you have to distinguish, okay, hot means yes, cold means no. And then ask, because you're asking the body, right? So is this vegetable good for me? How does that feel? Okay, moving on to the next one. Oh, this one is much better than that one. I'm going to buy this one. But people can train themselves, just like you're talking about that, you know, their body knows, right? Our bodies know. We just have to tune into it and train it so that it gives us the answers that we need.
To sense into it. Absolutely. Now, an interesting thing is people will say, and it's true, to eat a lot of vegetables, but not everybody can tolerate raw vegetables. They're better with cooked vegetables. So they can maybe get a couple of lettuce leaves and put the cooked vegetables on the top, along with some sliced avocado, for example, and drizzle on some olive oil. And they get the vegetables, but sometimes people can't tolerate a lot of raw vegetables, especially the brassica family, the cabbage family. They don't, after a certain point, they're not tolerating that the way they did when they were younger. So people have information, but is it matching their body? Is it a fit for them? And so always for us to take the information, oh, that's interesting, but is it matching me? And if the answer is no, you know, not really, then we have to choose something different.
Yeah. So people get into, you know, the smoothies and the raw vegetable juices, and, you know, their sister or a friend swears by it and they feel great. But that person, which is now your client, gets diarrhea every time they have that juice, because like you said, they can't handle that much raw ingredients. And so it's always, you know, that whatever that prescription is, whatever that diet is unique to each individual person.
And then another point, and I'm sure you've encountered this with your patients as well, sometimes vegetarianism is not for everyone. I find that that some people cannot be successful vegetarians because it's not the right match for them. And so that's another thing. And that's somebody else's program. Oh, this doctor is saying this and this. No, is it a match for me? You know, I was on that for 2 or 3 weeks and I felt terrible. Well, it's not the right match. So just because it's out there and everybody's doing it doesn't mean to say it's good for you on an individual level.
I totally agree with that. You know, it's like eat for your blood type and all that. There's people that were born to be carnivores and there are people that were born to be vegetarians. And, you know, there's so many components to how we are going to do with a certain food. You know, people have digestive issues. They got to deal with their DNA and their, you know, where did their ancestors come from? I always joke that, you know, my ancestors are from Northern Europe and I was born and raised in Sweden. I don't have the genes to eat all the soy products. I never done well with soy. And I think it's part of it is just my whole DNA. We lived on potatoes and fish. So it's not part
That's why fish would be great for you.
It's like a missing link in the digestive enzymes or something. But I think that's very true. And we tend to, because there's so many different foods that are available to us, and we get influenced by media that a certain diet is better for us. But this has been going on for years and years and years, right? There were times when we shouldn't eat eggs and we shouldn't have butter, and we, you know, had to avoid all these things. And then they all come back 20 years later. Now we're supposed to have the eggs and the butter again and avoid the canola oil. Remember, we all did canola oil, but now canola oil is bad. So, you know, we go through these phases. So people have to learn to take it with a grain of salt, I think, and say, okay, well, this is where we're at right now. So, you know, 10 years from now, we're probably going to say, oh, this diet is not good for everyone.
Yeah.
And people have to learn to listen to that. So can people get healthy with supplements alone? What do you think?
No, I don't think they can. I think with supplements and the correct diet, they can. And one of the pieces about supplements that I train people is to always have the supplements with food, never to have the supplements by themselves or with a glass of water. Always take them with food, a couple of bites of food down into the stomach, and then a bite of food in the mouth, chew it up well, and then when the food is in the mouth, slide in 1 or 2 supplements. I'm a firm believer in supplements that are food-based, because the body takes its nutrition from food. And yes, can the person take synthesized vitamins, and will they work if they're high quality? Yes, they will. Will they work as well as a food-based supplement? No, they won't work as well as a food-based supplement. I love drops, homeopathic drops I love. And I also like, for people that are quite ill, I love soups for them. Homemade soup, or soup that you know you can get, say, from Whole Foods. And soup is a tremendous nourishment for people that are not well, is give them soup, just get the soups going. And there's quite a bit in my book about using soups and specific types of foods for people that are not well.
Yeah, I love it. It's easy to digest too, and it's broken
Yes.
down, and there's so much nutrition in soups. So how do you view the use of prescription medication?
First of all, being a medical doctor's daughter, I believe that it's a marriage between your holistic physician or practitioner and your medical doctor. And I think that there are important reasons for using prescription medication. But if, for example, let's say it's blood pressure medication, there's other things that people can do. I'm amazed that people are on blood pressure medication and they're still drinking coffee. They still have a very high carbohydrate diet, and they're not exercising. And they're wondering why their blood pressure is off, and they don't know how to do, or not using meditation. So the prescriptions are there when needed, but if there's a discussion between you and your medical doctor about a prescription, you think to yourself, well, I've been given this diagnosis. Is there anything that I can do? Follow up with a naturopathic physician or holistic physician about some kind of alternative, or is there something that can be done along with the prescription medication? These prescription medications are life-saving, and I wouldn't say to not take them. I think it's important, but then find out what else can be done.
No, absolutely. I hear you. I've seen patients that were, 2 blood pressure medications and it's still not working. And you're adding, more things. But eventually, once they learn, like you said, to exercise, to eat right, to meditate, and these people come off their medications. I see it over and over again, and I'm sure you do too. And it's amazing. But it's, I think the people that seek us out are also, they want to find their way back to health. But all the other people that are out there that are on all these medications, I think it's easy for them to just take the medication and continue with their
lifestyle,
right? Their lifestyle, and not exercising and eating the way they do. So it is, these are the people that fall through the cracks in the Western medical system, because the doctors that work in the regular allopathic, like my dad, your dad, they don't have time to spend with the patients, to teach them how to eat right. And, if you just do this, I want to see you in a week, I want to see that you're meditating, you're exercising, you changed your diet, and you got to guide them. It's not easy for people to change the way they live without having somebody that guides them and sort of checks in with them. Yes. After a few weeks, if nobody's checking up on them, it's kind of, it was a stressful week, and they fall back on their own. They fall by the
wayside. It's tricky. It's a daily discipline, daily discipline of checking in. Okay, how do I feel? What would be a useful type of food for me right now? And you just sense into it. I sense into my own body and what my needs are on an hour by hour basis, literally. It's not a one thing and then I'm done. It's no. So what is it for right now? Oh, I think a little piece of salmon right now would do the trick. So you just kind of go with it. And then your supplements, you've got a basket of supplements, but you're tuning into them. and which ones are the ones that you're going to be consistently taking. For example, in the summer, I'm swimming in the ocean and out and about, and I don't want a whole bunch of supplements, but I do find there's some key supplements that I want to have in the summer, especially because there's a lot of fruit around, the fresh raspberries and blueberries and strawberries and all the different wonderful seasonal fruits. Well, you've got to be really tuning in and doing that Candida yeast program, or you're going to get cravings for sugar, and that's going to throw off your blood sugars and probably give you foggy thinking and a few more things. But so I just think it's tuning in on a daily basis and getting used to tuning into your own body, and then that's a good kind of a cornerstone.
Absolutely. Such good advice for all the listeners out there. So how could a person get started with a natural hormone balancing?
Well, it's understanding, and this is why I think it's great that you and I've corrected it. It's understanding let's just talk about females. The hormone that declines the furthest and the fastest when a woman gets into perimenopause, the middle of menopause, or even before, is progesterone. So once progesterone declines, that woman is going to feel weepy, she's going to feel anxious, she probably can't sleep. And progesterone is an easy correct, but you do need a practitioner to guide you. So if progesterone is low, these are the symptoms: the weepiness, the anxiety, the poor sleep. And then the other one is when estrogen declines, and that happens with age. That woman is not going to have the brain capacity. She's not going to have the mental acuity. She's not going to have get up and go. She's going to feeling off with her sexual desire, for example, and her energy and zip will not be there if her estrogen is low. So, and testosterone plays a role as well, and cortisol. So the best thing, if a woman feels that things are off and she's thinking, I'm pretty sure it's hormones, go to a naturopathic doctor, go to a holistic physician who specializes in natural hormone balancing, called Bioidentical hormones, and get a panel done to find out where these hormones are showing low. And then there's books. My book, The Body Knows How to Stay Young, is a very good guide on how to do hormone balancing. And I think it's a huge need in our country and probably around the world. Practitioners who are giving reliable information and help and prescribing natural hormone balancing. We don't have enough practitioners to do this work. But the key starts with, as patients, our own knowledge of and understanding of the different hormones, what they're there for, and then start to find a practitioner and start to find different avenues to be able to get the help that we need.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So I trained in bioidentical hormones after I graduated from med school. So I work a lot with hormones, and just estrogen alone controls over 400 functions in your body. I mean, think about that. It's, we have 3 different kinds of estrogens, E1, E2, E3. And like you said, that progesterone sits on top, right? So we get cholesterol, and out of the cholesterol, we make the progesterone. Out of the progesterone, so it's like this little chart, then you can make the estrogen, you make the testosterone, it goes down these different pathways. But if you're low on progesterone, right, the pathway sort of collapses. Now you don't even have the progesterone. You can't even make the estrogen out of the progesterone because that sits on top. So many times when I work with people, all they need, like you said, is progesterone, because they will make the estrogen they need or the testosterone they need out of the progesterone that I give them. So, and sometimes people's estrogen and testosterone is so low, they need all 3. They need progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone just to fill that cup back up. And then after the cup gets filled, and this is something I see a lot too. So once you give them bioidentical hormones, you fill that cup. So I always tell people, think of it like a glass of water. And so your water was way down below. And then you start taking bioidentical hormones and your water cup fills. Well, eventually the water gets all the way up to the top, and now it starts to spill over. So now you're getting too much. All of a sudden, you've taken these bioidentical hormones for 2 years. All of a sudden you're high in estrogen. You're starting to have hot flashes, or, everything gets off. And sometimes if it's too much or too little, or if it's an imbalance between all the hormones, you're going to have symptoms. You can't sleep, you have hot flashes, you can't think. And it's just the imbalance between everything. And then you have to take away the estrogen and testosterone. And now all they need is the progesterone, because the water cup is already full. And so to keep putting that one drop of water back into the glass to keep the glass full, all they need is the progesterone. And it's a very interesting phenomenon that I see over and over again with people. And they take that. So sometimes people have taken bioidentical hormones for a very long time, and they come to me and they're feeling terrible. I used to feel great taking these, but now I have all these hot flashes and I feel terrible. And it's because everything is out of balance. And I asked them, well, when was the last time somebody tested your hormones? Oh, I don't know. It was probably 5 years ago. Right.
The
so
testing needs to be done.
right. So you have to test them, depending on what people do with the hormones. I typically suggest, have your hormones tested twice a year, because I see that all of a sudden people fill that cup. And then all of it. So I try to prevent them from having to go through that. The cup is overflowing and now we're going to have all these symptoms again. And then there are other people that stay on the same dose for 10 years and nothing happens. So again, it's that, we're all unique and we all have our own unique body. And people, sometimes there are Facebook groups, right? And I see people comment in these groups and they say, oh, well, if I was only taking, 50 milligrams of progesterone, I would feel terrible. I have to take 150. Well, for that person, that's all they need is 50. So you can't compare doses to other people. Some person will be on 10 times the dose and their body does something different with that dose. And other people, right, you give 50 milligrams, it's perfect. If you give them 60 milligrams, oh, it's too much. Now we're having symptoms again, back down to 50. And somebody else is on 50, you up it to 100, nothing happens, right? So people are very unique. People have unique bodies. And I just can't stress this enough. We are all such unique individuals, and each person needs what's good for them. And I'm so glad that you have that ability to tune in and recognize that with people when you work with them and say, you should eat raw vegetables and you should eat cooked vegetables, because it's such a big deal out there when people just think that they can just do what everybody else does. But that's not how we function as individuals.
No, we don't. And that's for sure. And then one of the things, of course, when hormones are out of balance, then the medical profession can only maybe prescribe an antidepressant or a sleep aid. And it really, with all due respect, has nothing to do with either of those two things. And there's that poor person, be it male, be it female, and they're taking a sleep aid or they're taking an antidepressant, where if they had a good practitioner that could help them with natural hormone balancing, they would be able to have this correction done quite naturally and quite efficiently. And that's a sadness. That's a real sadness that this is occurring. And it's not the medical profession's fault. They don't have the expertise in hormone balancing. And that's what we were talking about, why more practitioners are needed. I mean, it's just a great profession, naturopathy or a family nurse practitioner, someone that is studying natural hormone balancing. There's a huge need for that.
Absolutely. And we don't learn much about these things in med school. And so there are things that you have to train in when you get out of med school. And I think many times people think that, well, you went to med school, you know everything, but that's, what you learn in med school is the core information. And after you graduate, you have to pick up and learn a lot of other things. So I learned the hormones. I became a mold literate physician, right? Those are things you learn after, but we don't learn anything about mold in med school, except black mold is bad and they might have a mold toxicity. Moving on, next slide, right? Because that's a whole different topic in itself. So make sure, when people look for people or look for practitioner, find somebody that resonates with you, and or if it's a medical intuitive like yourself, that has the expertise that person needs.
I consider myself very, very fortunate, because when I got sick and I saw a physician who specialized in environmental medicine and became well, literally in 6 weeks, I was captivated by that. And I thought, well, here am I, a regular, normal person, and I am now well after having, quite a few years of very puzzling symptoms. That's what drew me into this whole field. it was because of my own illness. And so I consider myself really, really lucky that I had that experience.
You took that ticket.
I said,
Right?
I'll take
You
this
took
one.
that ticket in the spirit
Yeah.
world before you incarnated. Let me have this experience, and then I'm going to be a great medical intuitive. So it's been such a pleasure to have you as a guest today. So tell me, how can people find you and book a session with you and work with you?
Thank you, Dr. Lottie. It's been great being with you too. So my website is carolinesutherland.com. That's CAROLINE, Sutherland, SUTHERLAND.com, carolinesutherland.com. I'm only doing the mini sessions. No longer am I doing the hour-long one-on-ones, and I will be officially retiring at the end of December. And so I do the half-hour mini readings, which people love. They get the information that they need in a fast-paced half hour. And so those are available from my website. And I look forward to helping people. The sessions are interesting for me and fun, and give the people the core elements that they need so they can put together a program for themselves. And then, of course, my books. All my books are called The Body Knows, and that gives people information as well. And there's Hay House Radio podcasts and various podcasts, your podcast, that people can get intrigued and get involved and get excited about being healthy and living a full and vibrant life.
I love it. And I will put your website in the podcast notes. So again, that is www.carolinesutherland.com. So if you just go to the podcast notes, you can just click on the link and you can go straight to her website. And if you want to work with her, you better book a session soon, because she is going to be retiring at the end of the year. So this is your chance to get in with Caroline and get a good medical intuition reading.
Thank you, Dr. Lottie. Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show.
Wonderful.